Welcome back. While all of our settings are being configured and Supabase is setting up a project for us, configuring defaults, etc., let's review a little bit how we have been interacting with our Postgres database so far. Up until this point, we have been using Postgres locally, meaning exactly what? On your Mac or Windows or Linux machine, if you're using that, you installed a Postgres server locally. You connect it through a tool, whether it's PSQL or pgadmin or any other GUI. Your database itself lives on your machine. Your PC or Mac is doing all the heavy lifting when you're querying, inserting, or deleting data. And the data is only available to you. If I want to access your database, I cannot because the data is encompassed within your own local machine. And for most of our development lifecycle, this is just fine. We want to work on and test our applications. We don't want strangers snooping around. Now, how do I know that Postgres is running on my local machine? We can find that out. It depends on your OS. There are a few ways to check on this. On a Mac, you can use Homebrew and type in brew services list, and it will list you all the running services. I'm not using Homebrew, so that's not going to work for me. On this machine, I'm running Ubuntu Linux distribution, and I can put in a command which will tell me exactly the data about this database. So let's do the following command: sudo net stat, and with some options I will grep Postgres, and we get the following output. What is it that is telling us? Let's read this, simplify it. So my Postgres server is on my local machine. It is using the TCP protocol. The next number, 0, represents the number of bytes in the send receive queue. It's 0 right now, meaning that nothing is being sent, nothing is being received from the database server, and at the moment it is idle. Next, we have the local IP showing us the address 127.0.0.1. This should be familiar because we have been using this address. This is the address for localhost. We have been running Flask applications on localhost so far. The next, 5432, is the default port for Postgres at which it is listening to incoming connections. The value listen means that the socket is in its listening state, ready to accept connections. And finally, the last number is the process ID used by my system and the name of the process that is running. Okay, great. So we figured out that the Postgres server is running on our local machine, listening to connections at port 5432, but it is only accessible from the local machine itself. The server is in listening state, ready to accept connections. So let's first review on how we would create a database and interact with it using PSQL, because we will be doing something similar when we have a Supabase database set up. Here we have a SQL file, aptly named Craigslist. Let's open it up, take a look inside. Granted, this is a very, very simple Craigslist, but it will work for us at the moment. Here our SQL file will create 4 tables, a categories table, a regions table, a users table, and finally a post table. After the table creation, we want to seed some data into them, and after that we can react with our very simple Craigslist database. Okay, great. So let's go into the Craigslist database using PSQL. We'll use the PSQL command and tell it to take us to the database named Craigslist. Now we forgot to do something here, which PSQL will remind us and will politely yell at us about. We have an error. PSQL is telling us this operation is a no-go because the named database Craigslist does not exist. Okay, no problem. We will create a database named Craigslist and we'll open it up in our terminal. So we'll run create db Craigslist. Good, so we have that. And let's open it up in a terminal. Let's see what is in the database and what tables we have so far. We are within the Craigslist database. Let's take a look. And we have nothing. Well, that is exactly what we expected. No problem. We will use our Craigslist SQL file to create the tables, seed the data so that we can interact with it. So let's do the following with the command \i, and we will run this file here. Now we have to be in the same directory so that it will find the file. Let's run that. We have some output, create tables, so we have 4 tables created, and we have some insertions. Our table got seeded. So if I want to select a specific user, or if I want to select some users, we can now interact with it. So let's take a look now at our tables. Great, categories, posts, regions, all is here. So if I want to select all users, I will go and select all users. Okay, good. And if I want to select a specific user by, let's say, full name, we'll say, okay, select all from users where full name. And now we have to spell it correctly. And we have that. Good. This is all review. This all should be review at this point. If you don't feel comfortable with this concept, come back, go back to our PSQL units review on this before we go on further. So I created a database on my local database server, seeded the data to it, and I can interact with it. However, at the point right now, my data is only available to me, and my database, which I created, is only available to me. What if I want others to be able to interact with it? So let's, with that thought, pivot back to our Supabase project, which we created. It should all be set up by now. And let's see how we can do the same thing, but use Supabase to host our database. So I'll see you there.